name's Katie Robertson, and I'm the founder and director for the Anchor Gathering, and I want to officially welcome you to our November Anchor at Home. We are so glad you're tuning in. If you're in a watch party or you're watching on your own, we are so thankful you're joining us tonight. We've got a great program planned ahead, and before we get started, just a few things. We're dreaming big, and we want to share the good news of Jesus Christ with women everywhere, and we need your help. If you haven't already, if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be great. Follow us, like us, share us on our social media platforms, and consider becoming a watch party host. We are looking for women to come on board and open your home and invite women in. It could be your neighbor or a co-worker, a family member, a friend, and bring them in and watch the Anchor at Home together and be encouraged. To find out more, you can go to our website, theanchorgathering.com, and we'd love to connect with you. You can also share this YouTube link with anyone that comes to your mind or heart in need of hope. Together, we can make a huge difference. So our hope and prayer for you tonight is that you could just sit back, take a deep breath, and really take a break from the busyness of life, and we just hope and pray you'll be encouraged. And before we get started with the program, we thought it would be fun to take a look behind the scenes. We do this once, like every season. We like to just take a look and see what it takes to produce the Anchor at Home. There are some crazy moments, a lot of hard work, and gotta get this out, many takes. So we thought, let's take you now behind the scenes so you can see what goes on.
Where we're at. This is the intro to the Anchor. And then the next one, she's going to introduce the king.
And should my cross be showing or not? We don't want to deal with that.
Not too much.
If I move it, tell him it moves it. Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
And I was wondering, what are the items for the drawing this next Anchor?
Well, glad you asked. Just a minute, redo. That's too slow.
That's great. The music? You said yes, so I didn't have to say the music.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
So my name's Christy Haacke. Should I start over because I don't want to say so?
Yeah.
All right.
She's a freshman or an 8th grader. Oops, I got to start over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Karen. Not a Karen, Karen. I've practiced this so many times, but for some reason I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm counting down on 5.
About yourself and how. Check out your screen to find out how you can enter. Good luck to all. No, I'm sure we should do it.
Can I go? Do you know that this? Do you know the French fry? No French fry? Okay.
This is the fun. You don't know how to floss? No.
I learned this from my middle schooler. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we don't do that. What would I be doing that for?
Okay.
All right, I got it going.
5.
Watch party.
Come on to it. Watch party.
Watch
Come on,
party.
let's go.
You're gonna get there. You're gonna get there. You're gonna do it. It's gonna be
It'll take me a
fantastic.
second. I gotta talk really fast.
Okay, then one more thing about the.
In a speedo. That's Guido. He's in a speedo.
I don't know if I should have brought her. Okay, listen.
Anyway,
And I am officially. No, I want to start over. It feels like I have something in my eye. It's fine. Okay, I'm ready.
5.
Or is that too much? Or should I redo? I don't know.
What's in the drawing for this week?
But you're looking at me, though.
Okay.
It's kind of
Okay.
Wait a minute, who are we looking at? Good luck to all. First of all, wait, see, I'm already goofing. Stop, let me do it one more time.
great segue.
Did that sound right? Did I say what? Did that sound right? Did I say Best Western?
No.
No, you didn't.
So yeah, I'm gonna say, and did we say the Concordia? No.
No, you
Did
didn't
we?
say anything. You just
Okay, so I'm gonna say we're gonna be meeting at the Best, should we do the whole thing over? Luck to you all. Anything else, Reese?
Nope. Good
I
luck
think
and
we
hope to
can
see
say,
you.
see you guys soon. That'll work, won't it?
I'm going to take
Just fire me.
Well, at this time we have the anchor moment, and that is a time we get, wait, let me start again.
Okay.
I had to swallow. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Action. Are we good?
Well,
We're going to be up top. Okay.
listen, quiet on the set. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Take 5.
Perfect.
That's a good point.
Paper plates or your fine china, whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
Let's toast. Have a great day. That's so stupid to read.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So fun. We hope this helped you see what really goes on behind the scenes. And I want to just say a little shout out, a big shout out to our videographer, Rachel Brayton. She has done a tremendous job and always does to bring the Anchor at Home to you. So with that, we're going to start with what we always do, our music. And tonight it is an honor to get to introduce our guest, Brandon Heath, all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. He is one of the Anchor's favorite musicians. He is a top contemporary Christian singer and songwriter. He's produced 6 albums. He has won many awards, and we are so grateful. He is going to perform a very special song just for us, just for the Anchor at Home, all the way from his home there in Tennessee, where he lives with his wife, Cebe, and his darling 2 daughters. So let's hear now from Brandon Heath.
Hey, Katie and everybody at the Anchor. It's Brandon in Nashville. Just thinking about you guys, and so glad that you're all still getting together and getting deeper into the Word of God and seeing how it and He anchors our world and our lives. And thanks for letting me be a part of this. I have a song that I wrote a couple of years ago about this time of year, just being ready for Christmas, especially what's going on in the world, thinking this year specifically about what's happening over in the Holy Lands. So I'm going to sing a song that hopefully meets you where you are today. And just remember that God is still on the throne and knows how everything is going to come to pass. But we have hope in Him every day, no matter how hard it gets or how dark it gets. It's called We Need Emmanuel. I'm not entirely sure what's come over me up in the attic with that old fake Christmas tree, barely November. I can't remember me looking for Christmas so early. Could be the days getting shorter and darker now. All the world's problems I never could figure out. What's got me wishing for snow? Not sure, but I think I know. God with us, will you come be with us? 'Cause we need a little help. We need Emmanuel. Love, come now, sing with the angels now, just like the first Noel. We need Emmanuel. Christmas this year doesn't feel quite the same as it did back when I was born. The specials on TV and Hollywood, and maybe it's just me. Why is it so hard to find joy? I hope I don't sound ungrateful. There's food on the table and family around, but Christ in a manger. Could I ask a favor? Could I just hold you right now? God with us, will you come be with us? 'Cause we need a little help. We need Emmanuel. Love, come down, sing with the angels now, just like the first Noel. We need Emmanuel, just like the first Noel. We need Emmanuel, Emmanuel. guys have a great Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Brandon, for sharing your gift of music. Your lyrics of your songs always bring so much hope. Well, at this time, we have our anchor moment, and that is the time we get to hear from a guest a little bit about their life, their faith journey, and an anchor moment. And that is a time that their faith has been grounded, they've seen Jesus to be real, he's been their anchor. It's really a short testimonial, or now I'm thinking we could use the word encounter. It's an encounter with Jesus. So tonight we get to hear from Christy Haacke, and she's from Seattle, Washington, and we are going to take you to the historic Concordia 1930 ferry boat located in Gig Harbor, Washington, where we did our anchor moment filming. So let's take you now to hear from Christy Haacke.
I'm Christy Haacke, and for my day job, I get to bring meaningful experiences to life across the country by creating events that really bring life, hope, and future to the world's most vulnerable. And I do this as the Director of Conferences and Events at World Vision, which is a Christian humanitarian aid organization based right here in the greater Seattle area. In my personal life, I just love the beautiful creation all around us, and I love to take it in. I find joy in doing that as an avid runner. I also am so glad that we are back to doing life with people, and I'm sure many of you are as well. And I just treasure the time that I have with family and friends. And most recently, I'm a newlywed, marrying my best friend, soulmate, and running partner. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. I was born in a fourth-generation pastor's home. You know, I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I think we'd all say we grew up in a fairly idyllic home. We had a fast-paced life, and it was all centered around the church. And we had really amazing parents who were positive and life-giving, and they demonstrated to us what life looked like serving God and others. After leaving home at 18, I pursued a life with faith at the center, and after completing my education, I worked at a Christian university where I met and married a man that had big dreams of changing the world together, or so I thought. I'll come back to that. You know, I've experienced several significant anchoring moments in my life, and one came right before my 32nd birthday, which was also a week before I was supposed to run my first New York City marathon. Life as I knew it came to a crashing halt, and I discovered that the man I was married to might not be the man I thought he was, as I began to discover some heart-shattering news. At the time, I actually thought I was living the quintessential life on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, but little did I know that that wasn't the case. Within hours of making these heartbreaking discoveries, I found myself on a plane headed to the West Coast, where my parents lived in Portland, Oregon, and they just opened their arms and embraced me there as I really sought to discover truth. And I did find truth. So after returning to Portland, a week later, I was determined to go back and run that race and finish that goal. My personal life was unraveling and it felt so hopeless, but my faith and something within me prompted me to go and complete that race. So on November 1st, I laced up my running shoes and I hit the ground of New York City to accomplish that exhilarating feat. And along the route, friends and family held up signs that said, "Christy, this is your race. This is your story. Run like you mean it." And little did I know that this marathon would become a symbolic experience in my life story. What a great challenge it was. And crossing the finish line that day, I felt victorious, and I felt, believe it or not, that God was with me and supporting me, even in the most challenging of times that I was facing in my personal life. So after that race, I returned to Portland, and for the next 6 months, I faced the biggest fears of my life, as I came to discover that the husband that I was married to lived a double life, both professionally and personally. You know, when I left the city, I knew that things were bad, but I just didn't know the extent of how bad it really was. I didn't realize that that day when I left, I just packed up a suitcase with clothes, but that I was leaving and I would lose my husband, my personal belongings, my home, and I was never going to return to that life. Okay, so at 32 years old, I found myself no longer on the 27th floor of that high-rise building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, but rather back at my parents' house in the room I spent my high school years dreaming of a bright future. I was at rock bottom, wondering how could this possibly be my life? And how was that man who I was married to, who was so masterful at playing the role of my husband, how could he deceive me? And how could I fall for it? And how could so many other people be deceived by his ways? People often ask me during that time, did this challenge your faith? And yes, absolutely, it did. And it changed my faith. And it became an anchoring moment in my life, because in the midst of hopelessness, I thought, if God's real, he's my only hope. And I'd seen enough in life to believe, I think he's real. And sure enough, he is real. And he showed me that he could rescue me, restore me, rebuild me, and redeem my life. During that time, someone gave me this Bible verse, Isaiah 42:16, and it reads, I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths, I will guide them. I will turn darkness into light before them and make rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. You know, looking back at that anchoring moment of life, I discovered our life journey can really feel like a marathon. You know, we can start off strong in our journey, but we can come up against opposition, much like I did, where it just felt like life was ripped away from me. And it's in those moments that we become breathless and we don't know how we're going to make it, but we realize, okay, we got to pace ourselves and we got to keep our eyes fixed on the finish line. And when we hit the wall, which marathoners refer to, that's that time usually between mile 20 and 23 before you hit 26.2 miles where you just think you can't make it anymore. There were so many moments in my journey where I felt that. But it was at that time that I felt that God was my anchor and he really was my source to help me overcome things at that time. He gave me what I needed to be equipped and encouraged and empowered to move forward with life. You know, God showed up and he answered so many prayers and he turned my dark moments into light moments. While one relationship devastated me and really changed my life forever, he also used many relationships to help rebuild my life. Those relationships, they brought me hope and they anchored me to a new life. While I have many God-shining moments through this journey and this difficult, dark season of life, there's one I want to share with you that really helped me recognize God is with me. And it's that every morning when I was back at my parents' house, 32 years old, feeling completely humbled, completely humiliated. Life had turned upside down. Some days I just didn't know how I was going to get out of bed and face the discoveries or the news that I was going to get that day. But I'd come down to the kitchen counter, and on the kitchen counter would be a piece of paper with a word typed out for the day. And oftentimes there was a scripture verse with that word as well. And it was a word that my dad felt prompted to give me every day. And it was a word that I could hold on to or focus my thoughts on. It would be something like courage or strength or hope or future. And these words really sustained me and were a bright light during that dark season. And I could see that God was using that to just move me forward in the midst of the pain. Going back to the whole marathon, since that first marathon, races have become a big part of my life. I use them as a time to really celebrate what God's done and how he's helped me overcome radical and unexpected life changes that I faced and I know many of us face in our journeys. I've now gone back to run the New York City Marathon 6 times, and this last time was really significant as I got to share the experience with my husband, my new husband, my running partner. He has been such a significant part of rebuilding and restoring my life. I hope that you can be encouraged that despite your circumstances, God is faithful. And if we keep our eyes on him and we don't lose hope and we stay fixed on that finish line, life can look bleak. And in those dark moments, we must fight for light over darkness, healing over pain, and dancing over mourning. Every time I hit the road to run and start a race, I can hear the crowd cheering. A fresh wave of adrenaline rushes over me. But there's something more powerful. I feel joy. And I know that joy comes from the fact that God has not forsaken me.
Thank you, Christy, for sharing your story. It is such a great reminder to that promise that we have from the Lord, that He is with us every step of the way, and He has amazing love to pour out on each one of us. Well, at this time, we get to hear from our speaker, and it's a privilege to get to introduce to you Marilyn Vancil. Marilyn is an author and speaker. She is a spiritual director and teacher of the Enneagram. She has a passion for helping others to go deeper in their faith with Jesus and to really know their true identity in Him. She lives in Spokane with her husband. They've been married 51 years. They've got 4 grown children and 11 grandchildren. Let's hear now from Marilyn Vancil.
Oh, it is so great to be with all of you on this video. It's not very personal, but I hope that you are all having a great time with your friends in a great environment, that you're enjoying your time together, and that you will enjoy some time afterwards reflecting on what I want to share with you. Anchor, what a great theme, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So I want you to have an image in your mind of 2 boats. One is out on the open sea, however you want to imagine it. But it's out on the open waters, not the rough and tumble sea, but just open waters, spacious, beautiful, and seen in all kinds of directions. But it's anchored. It's not adrift. But at the same time that it's anchored, there's movement, there's motion. It goes around in a circle, and that the anchor holds it steady. Hold it in place so the winds and the waves and all that happens to it doesn't just completely capsize it or throw it off course and it ends up in a place that it wasn't intended to go. So think of a boat, that boat, and then also think of a boat that's marooned on the shore, beached, sitting there by itself. Maybe somebody has dragged it up from the water and it's sitting there, or it's been kind of shipwrecked, stranded, alone, and immobile. There's no motion. It's just stuck there. So I want you to think about those 2 boats, but think about, which boat would you rather be in? A boat that's anchored out at sea, or a boat that's marooned on a beach by itself and stuck? And in light of that, I want to share a story with you out of the Bible that Jesus had an encounter with a woman. And I'm going to read my interpretation, my narrative of this out of my, from my book. It's out of the Gospel of John, chapter 8. But I'm going to read you my version of how I see it, how you can apply it. Think about it as I read. Are there some similarities with you and this woman, but how she would have felt throughout the whole story? And maybe how you feel sometimes, and what it might feel like for you to encounter Jesus. So, this is from my chapter out of my book, Beyond the Enneagram. And I'm not talking about the Enneagram if anybody was expecting that, because it's just too big of a subject to cover. But I certainly would love to talk to you about the Enneagram if you want to contact me, or buy my books. You can do that too, right? But this is a chapter called From Wounded to Whole. And I want you to listen. Okay, early one morning, Jesus was sitting in a courtyard ready to teach, as he did quite often. Suddenly, a commotion arose. A group of men were dragging a woman through the crowd and right up to where Jesus was sitting, forcing her to stand in front of everyone. And they said to him, "Teacher," to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" So they really challenged Jesus. And here, think about this poor woman. I love how Jesus responds. He didn't say anything. Instead, he bent over and wrote in the sand, wrote in the dirt. And nobody knows what he wrote. There's been lots of speculation, but in my imagination, I think he wrote something only the woman could see. And it said, "Trust me, I got this." And can you imagine how that would have felt to her? Like, okay, somebody's on my team here. Somebody's got my back. The men kept demanding an answer. Then Jesus stood up. He looked at them and gave them permission to stone her, and if they were perfect examples of following the law of Moses.
Whichever one of you has committed no sin may throw the first stone at her.
Once more, Jesus knelt and wrote in the dirt. He was so calm, cool, and collected. With Jesus still kneeling and focused on the ground, everyone started to leave. Even the ones that were there to hear him teach. You think about that. They were the ones eager to hear from Jesus, but they knew that they needed to leave too. Pretty soon, Jesus and the woman were the only ones left. At last, he stood up and spoke directly to her. Okay, I'll get back to that conversation, but let's first consider how this woman ended up being an adulteress. At one time, she was a cute little baby, a joyful little girl with hopes and dreams, unwounded and innocent. When asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, she likely did not answer an adulteress. What changed? What led her to become this woman with no name? We don't know her story, but she certainly has one, just like we have a story. Was she wounded by rejection, neglect, or abuse? Was she lonely and longing for love and attention? Had she become poor with no means to support herself? Had she been told she was worthless or ugly? Or admired for her beauty and sex appeal, but nobody ever noticed anything about her? Was she competing with other women and looking for power and prestige? Regardless of the reasons, her true God-gifted identity was forgotten and buried beneath a wounded narrative and a fractured heart that landed her in the public eye, humiliated and fearing for her life. She was broken, wounded, and in need of a God-sized restoration to wholeness. So what does Jesus do? Back to the story.
Is there no one left to condemn you?
No one, sir.
And Jesus said, neither do I.
Well then, I do not condemn you either. Go. But do not sin again.
Can you imagine what she was expecting Jesus to say? Here's this guy talking about God and everybody's following him and he's teaching from the Hebrew scriptures, and she was probably like, oh no, here comes judgment, condemnation, rejection, more false narratives, more accusations. But no, he said, I don't condemn you. Jesus surprised her. He looked her in the eye, asked her where her accusers were, and she told him there were none. He didn't scold her, criticize her, ridicule her, or leave her. Instead, he lovingly and graciously told her to go on her way and stop living the way she was living. He offered her freedom. And here the word sin, that's a tricky word that we don't really like to talk about very much. He said, go and sin no more. But the meaning of that word is missing the mark. So he's really saying to her, don't keep missing the mark of your true identity and purpose in life. You weren't created to live this way, and there's so much more. So he sent her on her way, and we don't know anything more about her or how she responded to the new chance at life. Maybe she listened to Jesus and maybe she didn't. But the way I like to see it, I like to think she was sitting in the crowd the next day with her head held high, her heart healed, and eager to learn from the one who had shown her such love, forgiveness, hope, and restoration. So what a beautiful encounter this woman had with Jesus. What's your story? What accusations do you hear? What keeps you bound? So we all live with accusations that paralyze us, that impact us, that keep us bound and keep us stranded like this boat on the beach. For instance, I'll just tell you a little bit about my own story and where I found myself, an accusation that would just run deep in me. And that accusation was, you should know better. Shame on you. You didn't know better. And then whenever I feel criticized or I make a mistake or I choose the wrong paint color for my house, I feel this accusation that says, you should have known better. And how's that affect me? I feel stupid. I feel condemned. I can't do I have a hard time making decisions. I'm really sensitive to criticism. And if I make a mistake, it just goes on. You should have known better. Shame on you. And where does that come from? And I like to do a deep dive. And my parents were amazing. My mom died when she was 70, and she was a wonderful mother. My dad just died in April at the ripe age of 101. And I was the daughter and I was the princess. And so I adored my parents. They were great parents. But the one thing, as I thought about this, they didn't give me a lot of guidance. They didn't sit down and help me decide things and think through things. They kind of just left me on my own. But when I made a mistake, I heard, oh, shame on you. Honey, you should have known better than that. But why should I have known better? And when I sought Jesus' presence with me in that, and Jesus, what do you want to say to me? He said, you were just a little girl. Don't beat yourself up for not knowing better then or knowing better now. But he also said, I'm your shepherd. I am your shepherd. I am your guide. And so my prayer since that time has been, Jesus, shepherd me in this situation. Shepherd me in this situation. And so I feel like I have a partner. I'm not just out on my own trying to decide things, but I have Jesus as my shepherd. So let's go back to the boats. And I want to invite you, and I hope you're willing, into an exercise, a time of looking at your own life and thinking about these boats. So I hope you're willing and you have the comfort and trust of your friends around you. And so just take a moment. I want you to imagine yourself sitting on the boat that's beached, the marooned boat. You're sitting in it, and give that boat a name. Think of an accusation that you hear over and over again, and put that accusation on your boat. So my boat would have been, you should know better. That would be the name of my little boat, marooned on the beach. And however you want to imagine the boat. And think about what it feels like to sit in that accusation and the impact that it has on you. So I'm just going to give you a moment to pause, to think about that, to reflect. How does it feel to be accused by that? And then I invite you to imagine Jesus coming to you. And he pushes the boat out into the water, gets in the boat, and you float away together and you have a conversation. What do you want to say to Jesus when he says, what's the accusation that you hear? And tell him. And then he says, I don't condemn you. And whatever, God, what do you want me to know? Jesus, what do you want me to know? What does Jesus say to you? He says, I'm here. And he replaces, like I felt a replacement from that accusation of you should know better. I feel him saying, no, you didn't need to know better. You were just a little girl. And you don't know better. You don't know everything. And so let me be your shepherd. So what does Jesus say to you? And like he did in the story with the woman, he said, accusers, go away. You have no place here anymore. Send the accusation away as you go out in the water. And you become like the boat that's anchored out in the open sea. And Jesus can be your anchor. And you can have freedom and movement and enjoy all that's around you. And when the winds and the waves come, Jesus is the steady place that is in your boat with you. And like me, that accusation still comes up. I've been doing a house project and I did pick a wrong paint color, and it was, you should have known better. And then I go, nah, I'll just repaint it, okay, new picture, without the condemnation. So how is Jesus, with you in your boat, and let those accusations just float away. See Jesus take you out in the boat and offer you the freedom of his anchoring, steady presence, but he also wants to tell you something. So I just invite you to listen.
Thank you, Marilyn, for sharing your message of hope and encouragement. At this time, we will have discussion, and Marilyn has provided us a few questions. You will see them on your screen that you can go deeper with your watch party group, or you can ponder those on your own. Our hope and prayer is that you would be encouraged and go deeper in your faith. Well, in conclusion, we just want to say thank you again for joining us here at the Anchor at Home. I'd like to share a verse with you from 2 Thessalonians 3, verse 18. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. So until next time, like I always like to say, stay anchored, and we'll see you soon.